think something interesting about Microcosm is like we have such an audience. I've talked to you guys about this before, but everywhere else that I've worked, it's been this huge like crisis mode question of like consumers don't know what a publisher is. How do we let them know what a publisher is or an imprint, and how do we become their favorite one?
Yeah.
You just have to be really mainstream.
Right. And that was most of the time the only answer people could come up with. And even at these sort of like arty establishments for a bunch of reasons, but a lot having to do with reasons anybody reading Unfuck Your Nonprofit will recognize. That was a lot of the answer was, well, we have to find a way to get into Target. And I was like, people who shop at Target aren't going to want to read this like totally freaky psychedelic like Spanish translation. It would be so cool if they would, but like we have to find people who are excited about what it is you're actually creating.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the Vice President of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we bring first-time guests, perhaps ongoing feature, from our marketing department, internally, the top secret
The call is coming from inside the house.
I'm still doing the introduction.
I'm just doing sound effects.
I see that. We bring you Daley Farr, who comes from a smorgasbord of publishing experience, and in a very fine Kurt Cobain sweater today for those on our home listening program.
Hey, you guys. Yes, first-time guest, long-time listener. People love to tell booksellers that they'll be good publicists, and I think to some degree that has been true. And I was back and forth between the bookstore and the email jobs.
I remember when you applied and we were like, this person seems too good to be true. They have all the things and they're fun. They're like, you knew how to sell yourself.
And just now, I look for somebody that has restaurant experience because it means that they like know how to work.
Joe specifically says fast food.
Ideally fast food, but I accept other restaurant kitchen experience.
I just had a kind of like page-turning experience reading Good Trouble last week. And so I was like, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
You read it. Uh-huh.
Well, I apologize for all the darkness in that book.
What did you learn as a barista that you use in your work in publishing?
I think a lot of it was, I guess, first of all, just that it was fun for me to get to talk to people and see a mix of both new people and the same people every day. And so you have those kind of, I think in books and in marketing, we have those relationships. We always have new customers, but then we have long-term people we've been working with forever. And it's just as much about like maintaining relationships, giving them the thing they always want, trying to get them to try new stuff sometimes, or for new people explaining what it is you're giving them and like why it's good or why they want it or why it costs over $5 for this latte, whatever. And I think just being able to engage with people and be curious about them and see what their tastes and interests are. I mean, a lot of my time doing that kind of work was I ended up talking to people about books because that's what I was interested in, as are many other people who linger in coffee shops. So yeah, I think a lot of it started there. Yeah,
I like that because, you know, when I worked in food service, like the daily customers are either like the best customers or they're the most annoying customers because like you have something of a dynamic. Or we don't need to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but they're, but it's like fascinating because it's like regular customers in book selling and regular customers in publishing. It's like, to me, it's the exact opposite is that you're like, it's really easy to get a daily customer in a coffee shop or in food service because they live around the corner or they just like Italian food or whatever. Whereas like in publishing and book selling, you have to be like, here is the new thing we have for you that you don't already have. You know, we built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit, doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free.
My existence in that world was mostly the post-espresso universe and into some like very fancy, like high-end coffee stuff. So there was some of that. It was like, you know, telling
have you tried matcha?
Yeah. Like explaining to a 60-year-old guy what a cortado is like truly, I think, good like life training for anybody.
But I feel like what that like kind of work teaches you that like academia doesn't necessarily prepare you for is to sort of systematize what you're doing and to like, to systematize what you're doing and how you see it.
Yeah, I think definitely the systematized thing, and like more than almost any aspect of my life, like that was where I was so, I love to keep a clean workspace, and you just do the same things over and over again. But also things go wrong, and like you can't freak out because you are in a public situation. And just, you know, I mean, other basic stuff, learning not to take things personally, whatever. But I truly see, I know we want to get into other things, but it's such a strong connection for me still between those like skill sets that I do think about it a lot. So it's fun to talk about to people to get it.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because this is like when we were the fastest growing publisher in Publishers Weekly, I was like thrust into an awkward conversation with the head of the American Library Association. And her very first question is like, "Oh, well, where did you intern at? And where did you work previously?" And I was like, "Well, I ran a restaurant." And then she just stared at me like I was from Mars.
Right.
And then, you know, and I was like, "No, that is my relevant experience." You know, and it's like you may not see it that way, but that's like completely the only thing that prepared me for this moment, you know. But I think that's just like, I don't know, you may as well be like, you know, speaking in hieroglyphics to like somebody who comes from a more traditional publishing background.
And I feel like this was the question that came up on our company Slack that sort of sparked this conversation, is talking about like how the world of marketing and publicity has changed. Sort of like, what are the standard ways to do that and why? And what do we do differently and what do we need to do differently? Like what actually works? And I would love to hear your thoughts about that, Daley.
Yeah, what actually works? Yeah, that's the big ticket item that we're all chasing. It's crazy to have this conversation this week, considering it was yesterday that the Washington Post axed their entire highly esteemed books department. It was truly, you know, I mean, things have been downhill since Bezos took over, and obviously downhill before that for newsrooms, but that was such a specialized and respected group of people, and genuinely a place where it was hard to get coverage, but you knew they were like doing good work. They were responsive. Some of those folks, you know, I'd known from their prior roles. And so it's crazy. So even these, like the final remaining legacy places, that was really one of them. Now I guess there's two. And that's about it. So it's a crazy time. The winds are still shifting, and I feel like nobody really knows where they're going. How people most seriously will buy a book based on it being recommended to them by their friends and family. And that's only going to happen if that friend or family member is really excited about it, not just like, you know, anyway, they came across it and it was fine.
Right, they have to have read it and enjoyed it. You know?
It's not just that it existed in their path, you know. So I don't have the solution for everybody, but I think that microcosm in our favor is that we have a perspective, we have an aesthetic, we have a personality, both as individuals and as an entity. And that's reflected in all our choices, in our marketing and our press releases and our design, in the podcast.
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
And I think that that's something that a lot of places are afraid of, is like having a point of view, and thinking that that alienates you from consumers, for lack of a better term. But I think, it gets bandied about in a sort of like self-helpy sounding way a lot, but unless you are openly yourself, the people who are going to be into that won't be able to find you. And it also gives people permission to be themselves and produce the things that only they can, when they see others doing it. So I think that is very much one of our strengths that has made this a fun and interesting experience.
I have a question. So sorry, Joe, I'm stealing your turn.
Brutal.
So you and I were both trained in legacy publicity, legacy media publicity.
Whereas
that
I'm
era.
untrainable.
Joe knows how to do it. But, where you have a list of, you have a roll. It's a Rolodex. That's how antiquated this system is, where you literally have a Rolodex or a spreadsheet in later years of media contacts, and you develop relationships with them, and you're looking for new relationships. And I think one of the things, and we started to realize very early on in my tenure at Microcosm, that wasn't working at all. I think we kind of gave it up a lot sooner than a lot of people. A lot of people haven't given it up, but we were like, all right, getting in the media is harder than ever. It costs more than ever. And then the sales don't follow. So we're going to stop doing it for the most part. We're just going to do it passively, answer the phone. But what to replace that with has been such a conundrum. And I feel like that's something that you and our whole marketing team have been engaging with, because it's still an unanswerable question. A lot of the publishers are kind of taking that skill set and applying it to in social media influencers and developing relationships with them and paying them to promote the books. There's a lot of pay to play options, and it almost seems more kind of what we've had to do, and a lot of people have to do, is try to figure out how to develop almost a parasocial relationship directly with readers. I don't know. What do you see as is it a mistake to try to kind of copy and paste this skill set onto something else? Or do you see it as there is still a path forward there?
It's hard to say. I think that what the mode that I have worked in the last few years, or at least post-COVID, and even this is kind of on shaky ground, but that was in publicity, especially, you're so focused on relationships. I don't necessarily just care about where a person works, but it's about that person. And I've been privileged enough in prior roles to get to know certain individuals, reviewers or assigning editors or whomever, and kind of what they're into or what they might find interesting, and just follow them around. So there is some of that, but now they have fewer and fewer places to go. I think sort of what's interesting, Joe and I were talking about this earlier, is, how many of those folks are turning to doing their own newsletters, podcasts, Substacks, that sort of thing. And that is a way more diffuse and sort of chaotic landscape, but it is where I think some more kind of genuine coverage comes from. Coverage is almost not even the right word, right? Because it's somebody really reads something and is this was really good, I liked it. It doesn't even have to necessarily be, fit in with the company's plan for that quarter or whatever. But I think that's somewhere that Microcosm and other publishers have a lot of opportunity. The challenge is, of course, that then you have to go find those places, and there are so many, it's hard. Something I think that we do well, and that a bunch of other places try to do well, but we're especially focused on is authors who have their own networks and perspective and sort of other things that bolster their work beyond just the book as it exists. They have other related things they do out in the world that draw people to their work that comes out with us. This is hard because I feel like in the sort of broader publishing landscape, people talk about this as if it's like putting undue pressure on authors to promote their own stuff. Like, well, what's a publisher good for if you just have to like promote all your own work? But I do think there's like so much richness to be had in that collaborative relationship of like, you talk to us about who your people are, like where your work has been found or received enthusiasm before this, and kind of how can we tap them in, because there's already like a community of people who are interested in what you're doing. If they're interested in this thing we're putting out, they'll probably be interested in these other things we put out, and that's mutually beneficial for us and the author. So I think breaking down some of that, I don't think we have as much of this as other places, but that's sort of like people take for granted that that's this oppositional relationship in a way that I don't think is helpful, and that we need to like from to move forward in the landscape as it is now.
Right. Yeah. When I ran our publicity department many eons ago, it was basically like a mailing list of 300 outlets, and we would just literally send them the new books to everyone, and then they would write about it. And they often did not have email, so you would literally be like, we were like a little bit of a, conveyor belt of like new books, new sell sheets, mailing address, label into the mail stream with today's orders. And that was pretty great for the, like back when there were like a ton of LGBTQ magazines, like that was amazing. Back when, there were like tons of lefty magazines, that was great.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.